Chapter 1. You can always hear more than you want to when you're hiding behind the living room door. That's what I was thinking as I crouched there, knees pressed to the worn carpet, hugging my sketchbook tight. Dad's laughter echoed from the kitchen, mixing with that unmistakable rise-and-fall teasing of Jake and his friends, Ben and Max. It didn't sound like anything secret, just dumb jokes and the crinkle of a chip bag. Then Jake's voice sailed out through the half-closed doorway, smug and sure as ever. "Dude, my dad's shop is basically mine already. He says I've got a head for business. Lila, she'd probably turn the register into an art supply box or something. You know girls don't get how the real world works." Ben laughed so hard he snorted soda up his nose. Max guffawed. Even Dad chuckled, though I like to think it was distracted. Hot prickles started under my skin, a million angry thoughts fighting to get out. Jake didn't know I was there. No one ever expects the little sister to be listening. Pressing my forehead to the wall, I blinked away stinging tears and tried to focus on my slow breathing, not the words sitting heavy in my chest. None of them could see the drawings tucked between my math homework and the latest book I'd been reading. No one had noticed the ideas that spun behind my blue eyes as I watched Dad at his shop. They just saw Jake, tall, basketball-perfect Jake, the son, the next businessman. My palms went clammy with anger and something colder, doubt. Did I really not belong? Was my world meant to be crayons, not capital? I thought of Dad showing Jake the monthly ledgers and how he'd always shooed me away when I wanted to watch. "Let's not bother the boys, Lila. Go finish your book." Even Mom said things like that sometimes. I tiptoed to my room and let the door thud closed behind me. The sketchbook fell onto the bed in an explosion of wrinkled sketches and notes. I wanted to hide under my quilt until the world forgot about me, or until I forgot about it. But instead, I found Mom in her favorite nook, curled in her chair by the window with a mug of half-cold cocoa. She looked up with her warm, crinkly smile. "You look like the world ended, honeybee." "I heard Jake," I grumbled, plopping next to her. "He and his friends think I'm a joke. They say only boys get the business world. He says Dad's shop will be his someday, not mine. He laughed at the thought of me even trying." The words trailed off, but worse was how true they sounded coming from me. Mom set down her cocoa and brushed a stray curl from my hair. "That sounds a lot like what people told me when I was your age," she said quietly. That caught me off guard. "You." She nodded, lips pressed together as she searched for the memory. "I wanted to run a bakery. My brothers laughed. My dad said it'd be a good hobby until I married someone with a real business. But I didn't listen, at least, not for long." She smiled, but there was a hidden sadness underneath. "I saved up, tried, failed, tried again, and I did it, until I became a teacher, and then I got to help other girls see what they could do, too." "And you don't think Jake's right?" I whispered. "You don't think business is just for guys?" Her brown eyes shone. "Lila, business is for anyone who's brave enough to try. It's about seeing the world differently, finding a need and making something real out of it. You've always had that spark. Don't let anyone snuff it out." Her words were a warm flame in my chest, flickering between my ribs. Something fierce and stubborn took root. I thought about Jake's laughter, about Dad showing Jake how to count the tills, about how everyone believed, deep down, that he was right and I was just the little sister. It wasn't fair. And if there was anything Ms. Carter, my fifth-grade teacher, champion of justice for all, had taught me, I didn't have to accept not fair. I sat up straight, my voice shakier than I wanted but determined. What if I started my own business? What if I made more money than Jake ever could? Mom's eyebrows shot up in surprise, but then the left one quirked into a half-smile. That would certainly teach him a lesson, and probably a few adults, too. "But," I faltered, my cheeks burning, "I just don't know what I could do. I'm not like Jake. I don't know how to start businesses. I barely even know what people would want." Mom nudged me gently. "The best businesses come from what you already love. What makes you excited? What makes you frustrated? Sometimes those are the best clues." I hugged my knees, thinking hard. My drawings, my love of stories, could that ever matter in the world Dad and Jake thought they owned? The kitchen roared with laughter again. Dad's deep baritone, Jake's shrill command. I stared at my hands, small and determined. Maybe I didn't have the answers yet, but I had stubbornness and the strongest need to prove them wrong. Mom's hand squeezed mine. "Whatever you decide, I'll be on your team," she said softly. "No matter what." I took a deep breath, pulse thrumming with a mix of fear and hope. Out loud, though it startled both of us, I announced, "I'm going to start my own business and make more money than Jake ever could." Silence fell, heavy and certain between us. In my mind swirled a million ideas and doubts. But one thing was sure, I meant every word. I just had absolutely no idea what I was going to do next. I sat with my back against my bedroom door, hugging my knees. My hands were shaky. I could still hear Jake's voice in my head from earlier, loud and mean. "Girls don't get business," he had said to his friends. "Dad's shop will be mine someday, not Lila." When Jake laughs, it makes you feel small. His friends all laughed too. I felt my cheeks burn with anger and something else, maybe shame. Did they really think I could never do what Dad does? I bit my lip hard. Why did they always think Jake was better at everything, just because he's a boy? I tried not to cry, but my eyes stung anyway. The unfairness was almost too much to hold inside. Jake just gets attention from Dad just for asking questions about the shop. Whenever I do, they always say, "Let the boys talk, Lila." Or Dad pats my shoulder and tells me to help Mom instead. I wanted to disappear, but I didn't. I wiped my eyes and picked up my sketchbook. The edge was bent. I pressed my thumb over it. Inside were my favorite drawings: a fox reading a book, stars in a dark blue sky, a girl with wild, curly hair like Mom's. I was proud of these pictures, if only someone else saw them. After a while, I got up and left my room quietly. I peeked into the living room. Nobody saw me. Jake and his friends were still goofing around in the kitchen. I took a breath and walked toward Mom's nook. She was sitting in her big chair by the window, reading. She looked up and smiled when she saw me. "Hey, Lila, what's up?" she said. I walked over quickly. My voice shook. I couldn't help it. "Jake said," I started. "He says I can't be in business because I'm a girl." Mom's smile disappeared. She put her book down. "He really said that," she said, and her voice was quiet but strong. I nodded. My throat was tight. I felt her eyes on me. "He said his friends laughed too. They think the shop is his, not mine, just because he's the boy," I said. Mom was quiet. Then she put her arm around me. "When I was your age, people said the same things," she said. I looked at her. "Really?" I said. She nodded. "My own brothers and my dad. I told them I wanted my own bakery someday. They laughed. They said I'd never run a business, not really." I stared at her. "But you did it," I said. "You had your own shop." "Yes," she said, squeezing my shoulder. "But it took time to believe I could, and courage to prove them wrong. It hurts when people doubt us. But sometimes the best way to show what you can do is to just do it. Let them watch." I sniffled. "But what if they're right? Maybe I can't." Mom shook her head. "They are not right," she said. "You're smart, you notice things, you draw, you see what people love, you ask good questions. That matters in business, believe me." I was quiet for a second. "But I don't know how to start, or what to do. Jake says I only do art for fun, and Dad always talks to him about money stuff, not me." Mom leaned closer. "What do you love? What makes you mad or excited? That's where a good business begins. You find a need, then you fill it your own way." I looked at my sketchbook and turned it in my hands. "I wish I could prove I'm as smart as Jake," I said softly. "I wish Dad would notice me too." Mom touched my arm. "You can, and one day even Jake will say he's proud to have you as his sister." I almost laughed, but it came out as a shaky sigh. "That'd be a miracle," I said. She grinned at me. "You never know," she said. "I believe in you, Lila." The words made something warm spark in my chest. I looked at the sketchbook again. All those drawings, all those stories in my head. Maybe, just maybe, I could use them for something big. I sat up a little taller. "Mom," I said, and my voice sounded braver. "What if I started my own business? What if I made more money than Jake ever could?" Mom raised her eyebrows, surprised. Then she smiled, this big, proud smile. That would be something, she said. I grinned. My stomach flipped, half scared and half excited. I had no idea how to do any of it, but now I wanted to try. I would show Jake that I was smart enough. I would show them all. Mom stood up and hugged me tight. Whatever you try, I'll help you, she said. I held onto her hard. Thank you, I whispered. I let go first. My mind spun with ideas and doubts and hope. I wanted to cry and laugh all at once. Jake's words hurt, but now I had a tiny seed of hope. I just needed to decide what kind of business to start. The noise of Jake and his friends got louder from the kitchen. Part of me wanted to run in and yell at them, but instead, I stayed with Mom and thought of what I would do next. I felt braver than I ever had before, but I was still scared, and I had no idea what my first step should be. But I knew this for sure. I was not going to give up. Not ever. Just then, I heard Jake's footsteps in the hall. My heart started pounding harder. Would he come in and laugh at me again? Would he find out I was planning something? I held my sketchbook close, waiting. He pushed open the door and looked right at me. I didn't move. We stared at each other, neither one willing to speak first. The next morning, I found Mia waiting for me at the school bus stop. She was twisting her backpack straps the way she always did when she had something on her mind. Hey, Lila, Mia said. You look upset. Is it Jake again? I nodded and said, he thinks I can't ever run a business because I'm a girl. Mia's eyes grew big. That's so messed up. Don't listen to him. I let out a sigh. I can't help it. It hurts. But last night I decided I want to prove him wrong. I just wish I knew what kind of business to start. Mia grinned a little. We'll think of something. Do you have any ideas? I shook my head and looked down at my sneakers. Not yet. The bus pulled up and we got on. We sat next to each other by the window. The morning sun was warm on my face, but I still felt a knot in my stomach. At lunch, Mia and I sat under our usual tree. She dug around in her backpack, searching for something. I watched her, not really caring until she groaned and threw her bag down. What's wrong? I said. She frowned. My dad is so upset. He lost his whole bookmark collection. He can't find any new ones he likes anywhere. He tried ordering online, but they're all boring. I blinked. Wait, people collect bookmarks. Mia nodded. He reads even more than we do. He says the right bookmark makes reading fun. I sat up straighter. I've never seen any cool bookmarks for sale here. Me neither, Mia said. Then she stared at my lunchbox. Hey, you're good at drawing. What if you made bookmarks, cool ones, with your art? I felt my heart pound. You think people would buy those? I know they would, Mia said. You can draw animals or books or even fantasy stuff. My dad would love it. I couldn't help smiling a little. It might work, but would anyone else want them? Mia nodded, excited. I think lots of people at school read, or at least teachers might. If your bookmarks were unique, everyone would want one. All through the rest of the day, my mind spun with ideas. Every time a teacher mentioned a book, I pictured a bookmark next to it with one of my drawings on it. I could see dragons and kittens and stars, maybe magical forests. My head was buzzing. That night at home, I went straight to my desk. I grabbed my pencils and started sketching. I drew a fox with glasses, a stack of books with vines wrapping around them, and a whale swimming through clouds. I didn't even realize hours had passed. My hand ached, but in a good way. I whispered to myself, Jake has no clue what real work is. I made a little chart to figure out how much each bookmark might cost to make. I wrote things like paper, colored pencils, and even plastic sleeves in neat columns. My heart felt light. It almost didn't matter if it worked. I just liked the feeling of trying. Suddenly, my door burst open. Jake stomped in without knocking, holding a big orange basketball under his arm. Hey, I yelled. I'm busy. Knock first, Jake. He just marched right in, looking around. His eyes landed on my desk and on my drawings. What's all this? Jake said, squinting. He grabbed the paper with my chart on it and stared at it. Why are there numbers everywhere? What are you doing? I yanked the chart back. My cheeks felt super hot. It's none of your business, just art, okay? He stared at the bookmarks I had just finished. All these drawings of money, you think you're some kind of rich artist. It's not money, I said. It's just a chart. He snorted. You and your doodles. Dad says art isn't going to get you anywhere. It's a hobby, not a job. You'll never be a real business person. His words stung. I felt sadness turning into anger inside me. You don't know what I can do, I said softly. Jake tossed the chart onto my desk and shrugged. Sure, whatever. I have basketball practice. Dad is taking me over to the shop later. He says I'm going to learn how to order supplies. I glared at him. Good for you, I said, my throat tight. He didn't even notice. He just walked out and slammed my door shut behind him. I stared at my drawings and felt a lump in my throat. Was he right? Would no one ever take me seriously? I pushed the thought away. No, I wasn't going to believe him. I wanted to prove him wrong so badly it hurt. I looked at my birthday savings jar on the bookshelf. I had been saving for a new bike. Now, I wondered if I should use it to buy the supplies I needed. If I wanted to start my own business, this might be my only chance. I touched the jar and whispered, maybe this is more important than a bike. My stomach jumped with nerves and something else too, excitement. Should I take the risk? Just as I was deciding, I heard Mom calling me from downstairs. The word dinner floated up. I wondered what they would say if I told them my real plan. Would they even believe I could do it? I took a deep breath and hurried downstairs, my mind swirling with new ideas and worries. I felt a little scared, but also brave. Tomorrow, I decided. Tomorrow I would do something big. I just wasn't sure what would happen if Jake found out. I stared at my drawings, feeling full of energy and worry all at once. Jake's words kept echoing in my ears when I tried to sleep. Art isn't a real business. And worse, you'll never be a business person. He had no idea what I could do. I wanted to prove it. I wanted to show him, and even Dad, that I was good at something too. The next morning, I tried to ignore Jake at breakfast. He was showing off about basketball and talking about the shop with Dad. I just ate my cereal and kept my business idea secret. My heart felt heavy. At school, I found Mia by the lockers and showed her my bookmarks. She gasped and hugged me. These are incredible, Mia said. You really finished them last night. I nodded and said, I made 5 different designs. I hope people like them. Mia's eyes went wide. They will. Can I help you sell them? I smiled. My hands felt shaky. Really, that would be awesome. We waited until lunch, then picked a spot near the library door. I set my bookmarks on the table, along with a little sign I made out of colored paper. Lila's custom bookmarks, $1 each. I felt nervous. My stomach flipped over and over. A girl from my history class walked by and stopped. Did you draw these? She asked. I nodded and said, yeah, I did. She smiled. They're so cute. I want the one with the fox, please. I handed her the bookmark and took her $1. My fingers tingled. I couldn't believe it. Someone bought my art. Mia grinned. See, everyone loves them. More kids came over. 2 boys from science class laughed, but then they bought bookmarks for their teachers. Even a teacher looked over and said, wow, you made these yourself. I said, yes, I love drawing, and I thought bookmarks would be cool for people who read a lot. She paid me for 3. I felt my heart fly. At the end of lunch, I had $7 in my pencil case. I counted it over and over. It felt unreal. But later, when I was packing up, I heard Jake's voice from across the lunchroom. What are you doing, Lila? He called, loud so everyone could hear. I froze. My cheeks burned. Jake marched over, his basketball friends right behind him. He looked at my bookmarks and raised his eyebrows. Are you serious? Jake said. Bookmarks, that's your big idea. I tried to stay strong. Yes, I said. Some people actually like them. He picked one up and waved it at his friends. Hey, who wants these? Ooh, fancy paper with doodles on it. So hard to make. The boys laughed. 2 kids who were about to buy walked away, blushing. I felt like I might cry, but I held it in. Why do you always have to make fun of me? I said quietly. Jake just shrugged. I'm not making fun. I just think it's a kid's thing, not a real business. It is real, I said, sounding braver than I felt. He snorted. Dad sells things you need. You just make pretty stuff no one cares about. I wanted to scream, but I just held my cash box and stared at the table. Was he right? Was I just wasting time? Suddenly, I heard a new voice behind me. What's going on here? It was Ms. Carter, the principal. She looked serious, her arms crossed. Jake stepped back and smirked. She's selling stuff at school, he said. I think you're supposed to have permission. My heart pounded so loud I thought everyone could hear. Was I in trouble? Did I just mess everything up for trying something new? Ms. Carter picked up a bookmark and looked at it closely. She didn't smile. She turned the Fox bookmark over in her hand. Jake kept standing there, arms crossed, like he couldn't wait for me to get punished in front of everyone. I was only trying a business idea, I said, my voice shaking. I didn't mean to cause trouble. She looked at my bookmarks again. I thought she might take them away, or worse, call my parents. The lunchroom felt quieter. I could feel everyone's eyes on me. My throat felt dry. Are you upset with me? I asked, barely more than a whisper. Ms. Carter didn't answer right away. She just kept looking at the bookmarks silently. Jake's grin got bigger. I felt myself getting smaller in my chair. Finally, Ms. Carter looked directly at me and said, Where did you make these? I swallowed hard and said, I drew them at home. I made the bookmarks with my own money. I just wanted to see if people would like them. She nodded slowly, but her face was still so serious. And you're charging $1 for each. I nodded again. Yes, I said, that's right. She turned to look at the sign, and then she looked at Jake. For a second, nobody said anything. Miss Carter didn't smile or frown. I had no idea what she was thinking. Come see me at the school fair tomorrow, she said. I want to talk to you more then, Lila. Her voice was unreadable. Jake looked at me, looking totally sure I was in trouble. I stared down at the bookmarks, heart pounding, wondering if I'd just ruined everything. The gym was buzzing with voices when I walked in for the school fair. My hands were shaking as I set out my bookmarks on the table. Mia was beside me, helping me set up my sign. I kept seeing Ms. Carter's serious face from yesterday in my mind. I couldn't stop thinking, what if I get in trouble today? Mia tried to smile. Don't worry, Lila. People love your bookmarks. Today will be good, you'll see. I nodded, but my stomach had a hard knot in it. I could see Jake across the gym, laughing with his friends and pretending not to look at me. I saw Mom near the teacher tables, and she waved at me. Dad wasn't there. He said he had to open the shop but might stop by if he could. People started walking by my table. I smiled and talked to everyone who stopped. Some kids remembered seeing my bookmarks at lunch yesterday. I want the cat one girl said. My grandma loves books, another boy said, handing me $1. With every sale, my fear went down just a little. Then a teacher stopped by and picked up a bookmark. She smiled and said, I saw these in the teacher's lounge. They're wonderful, Lila. I felt my cheeks go hot. Thank you, I said. I made each one myself. I'd like 5, all with books on them, she said, grinning. I wrote her order on a scrap of paper because my box was running low. More people came. Soon, there was a little line at my table. Mia's eyes were huge. Lila, look at everyone. You're super busy. I didn't even have time to think about being nervous. I needed a way to keep up with everybody's orders. I grabbed a notebook and made a list. Write your name and your favorite animal or color. I'll make special bookmarks for you by next week, I said to a group of giggling third graders. They started writing. Suddenly, I heard someone clear their throat. I looked up, and it was Ms. Carter, the principal. She wore a serious face but picked up one of my bookmarks and turned it over in her hand. You made these right, she said. I nodded quickly. Yes, I promise I asked the art teacher if I could use the colored pencils. I made everything myself. Ms. Carter didn't smile. She just said, Well, you're quite the entrepreneur, Miss Lila. Her voice was calm and big. I thought my heart might stop. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Jake standing extra close, arms folded, waiting for me to get in trouble. Ms. Carter kept speaking. I actually need something special. I'm meeting with principals from across the district next week. I want 20 bookmarks, all with school themes. Can you do that for me? My mouth dropped open. I nodded hard. Yes, I can do it, thank you. For the first time, Ms. Carter smiled. Good. You can leave your order form with the front office, and I'll pick them up when they're ready. As she walked away, I heard people around me whispering. Kids looked impressed. Even some teachers smiled at me as they passed my booth. Mia put her arm around me. Lila, you're famous now. Even the principal wants your bookmarks. My chest felt weird, like it was light and heavy at the same time. I can't believe it, I whispered. Just then, a huge rush of people came to my table. I barely had time to say hello before someone else wanted to buy. Parents and kids pointed and smiled. Mom came over with her friend from the English department. Lila, Mrs. Johnson wants 3 for her book club, Mom said, giving me a wink. Thank you, Mom, I said, my hands shaking as I wrote the order. Soon I had to make a new system. I asked everyone to fill out a little slip of paper with their order and drop the money in my cash box. My hands hurt, but I didn't care. The box was filling up. It was real money, money I earned myself. When things slowed down at last, I counted. I had over $40. My heart raced. I looked up and saw Jake walking over. He had a strange look on his face, not smirking, not angry, just puzzled. He stood in front of my table. How did you do that? He said. I blinked, still holding a handful of dollars. Do what? He stared at my bookmarks. Sell these. They're just pieces of paper. Why would so many people buy them? I squeezed the bills in my hand and tried to keep my voice calm. They're not just paper. They're special. People want something creative, something nobody else has. I guess I figured out what they liked. Jake stared at me for a few seconds. That's weird, he muttered. His voice was almost quiet. I don't get it. He looked at my cash box and nodded a little. I guess you know what you're doing. I almost laughed, but I also almost cried. He gave me a half smile. Maybe you're not as lame as I thought. I raised my eyebrows. That's the closest to a nice thing you've ever said. Before he could answer, I saw Dad coming into the gym. His face was serious, and he walked straight towards me. Lila, Dad said, his voice strange and low. We need to talk about this business of yours. All my happiness shrank. I wondered, was he angry? Did I do something wrong? My hands started to shake again as he led me away from my booth. I swallowed hard, not sure if my business was about to end right when it was just beginning. Dad led me outside the noisy gym, one hand on my shoulder. My heart thudded in my chest. I stared down at my worn sneakers. For a second, I couldn't speak. I was too afraid. Finally, Dad stopped walking. We stood by the flagpole in the sunshine. He kept looking at me, his eyebrows kind of low and serious. Dad cleared his throat. Lila, I heard about the bookmarks, he said. You did all this yourself. I nodded slowly. Yes, I said, my voice quiet. I drew them. I paid for supplies with my own money. I sold them at school and the fair. He studied me for a moment. His eyes looked tired but soft. And you made all those sales on your own. I nodded again. Mia helped, but all the designs are mine. Dad was quiet for a long time. I started to bite my lip. I waited for him to say I was in trouble or that I couldn't keep selling. But Dad did something I didn't expect. He smiled. Lila, he said, this is amazing. I had no idea you were doing something so impressive. You really surprised me. My mouth opened in shock. You're not mad, I said. Dad shook his head. No, I'm not mad, not at all. In fact, I'm proud. You showed real business sense, more than a lot of adults, to be honest. Your mother told me she was rooting for you. I should have paid more attention. I tried to breathe, but my chest felt tight in a good way. You really mean it. He nodded. Absolutely, managing money, creating something people want, thinking fast when things get busy, that's what makes a good business. You did all that without any help from me. I felt tears prick my eyes, happy ones this time. I just wanted you to notice me, I said. You always talk to Jake about work stuff. I wanted to prove I can do things too. Dad put his hand on my shoulder. You did prove it, and I should have been showing you more, not just Jake. I'm sorry, Lila. It felt like a soft, warm blanket wrapped around my heart. Thank you, Dad, I said. I really mean it. He squeezed my shoulder gently. So, now I have a question, he said, with a crooked smile. Are you ready to learn how to turn this into a real business? I can help you with more grown-up stuff now. We can open a bank account, maybe talk about keeping track of orders, that sort of thing. I blinked, my head spinning. Do you really think I can do that? I said. Dad nodded. You've already proven you can. Why not make it bigger? A funny laugh escaped me. That sounds kind of awesome, I said. He chuckled. You'll have to work hard. Are you ready for that? He asked. I grinned and nodded. I love working on this. It's not just art. It's something I built myself. Dad looked proud and maybe a little sad, too. You're not my little girl anymore, are you? He said, wiping his glasses. I hugged him before I even realized I was moving. Dad held on tightly. I'll always be your little girl, I said. I just want to be your business partner, too. He laughed and hugged me tighter. I thought maybe I'd never be happier than at that moment. A few minutes later, we walked back into the gym. I still felt shaky, like I could float off the floor. I started to picture what my business could really be, with help from Dad and from Mom, too. After dinner that night, Dad helped me set up a business email and explained some money stuff. I listened closely, feeling important. You're going to need a place to keep orders, Dad said, and some way for people to reach you. I nodded, writing it all down. I'll do it, Dad. I want to be as good as you at this. You're already better at some parts, Dad said, smiling. Really? I said, staring at him. Nobody ever said that to me before. Dad squeezed my shoulder. You have something special, Lila. People want what you make. That's how businesses start. Don't forget it. Later in my room, I checked my new email account. I didn't expect anything to be there, but when I opened the inbox, I almost stopped breathing. I gasped so loud that Mom came to my door. What's wrong, Lila? She said. Look, I said, turning my laptop around for her to see. The owner from Bookhaven wrote to me. Mom's eyes grew wide. Bookhaven, the big bookstore on Main Street. What do they want? I read the message out loud. Hi, Lila. I've heard wonderful things about your bookmarks from teachers and students. I'd love to talk about selling them at our store. My hands trembled. I could barely speak. Mom put her hands over her mouth in surprise, then she hugged me tight. I'm so proud of you, she whispered. What are you going to do? I stared at the screen with a huge lump in my throat. I whispered, I have no idea, but I think this is big. Mom squeezed my hand. Whatever you choose, I know you'll make the right decision. All I could do was nod, wondering what would happen next now that a real business wanted my work. I woke up almost scared to check my email, but I did it before even getting dressed. The message from Bookhaven was still there. I'd read it 3 times already. I wanted to run and show someone and also hide under my bed at the same time. It felt too big, like maybe I would ruin everything if I said yes. At breakfast, I poked at my eggs. Jake grabbed a piece of toast and looked at me. You good, he said. He never asked that. I stared at him. I got a message from the lady who owns Bookhaven, I said. She wants to sell my bookmarks at her store, maybe even other stores too. Jake looked surprised for a second. No way, he said. She owns like the coolest bookstore. Lots of people go there. Mom clapped her hands. That's wonderful, Lila. We can meet with her together if you want. I nodded but felt nervous. What if I can't make enough bookmarks? What if my art isn't good enough for a real store? Dad smiled as he poured his coffee. You already made a business out of nothing, kiddo, but you'll need a plan to make more. Don't give up now. All day at school, I tried to draw in my notebook, but I kept making mistakes. My mind spun with what-ifs. After school, I found Mom at the table, grabbing papers. Mom, I said, I'm scared. Bookhaven wants a lot of bookmarks. I don't know if I can do it all on my own. How many do you think they'll want? Mom asked. I shrugged. Maybe hundreds. The word made my insides twist up. She patted my hand. You can figure this out. Think about what you need. Ask for help if you need it. I wanted to believe her, but I still felt small. Dad pulled me aside after dinner. Do you want me to help you make a schedule? He asked. That's when Jake walked into the kitchen, bouncing his basketball on the tiles. It made a weird, loud sound that always annoyed me. Jake stopped and looked at me. What's wrong with you? He said. I rolled my eyes. Nothing. I just have a big order and I don't know how to make enough bookmarks fast enough. I have to keep them high quality too, or Bookhaven won't want them. Jake rested his chin on the basketball like it was a pillow. You know, that's an operations problem, he said. Lots of businesses have that. You just need to make a system. I stared at him. You know about this? He shrugged. Kind of. I mean, Dad makes me help with inventory at the store. I sighed. Well, I need help. Maybe more than just you and me. I need people to put the bookmarks together. I have to draw, but it takes so long. Mom walked back in. Ask Jake's basketball friends, she said. They're always looking for ways to make extra money. Jake made a face. My friends, seriously. Dad grinned. Hey, if they want to make a little cash, why not? Jake looked at me. If you want, I can tell them what to do. I'm good at bossing people around, he joked. I couldn't help but laugh. Maybe he was right. Okay, I said, but only if they listen to me about the designs. Jake grinned. Deal. Later, after we called the Bookhaven owner and promised her a small batch next week, I got to work planning. I told Jake about each type of bookmark and how it had to be perfect, not sloppy. He actually listened for once. As I spread out my supplies, I looked at Jake. Why do you want to help me? I said. He looked away for a second. Maybe I don't want you to mess up, he said. Or maybe I just don't want you to get all the glory. I rolled my eyes. Yeah, right. He shrugged. Look, I don't want to see you fail. You're my little sister, okay? If kids at school start making fun of your bookmarks, I'm the only one who gets to tease you. I smiled and felt a strange little twist in my heart. Was Jake really trying to be nice? Or did he just want a piece of the business now that it was working? We called his friends, and soon my room was full of busy hands. The sound of scissors and shouts and laughter. It almost felt like magic. But as I checked each bookmark, I wondered, was Jake really on my side this time? Or was he waiting for a chance to take over what I'd started? I watched him carefully, my head spinning with ideas and worries, as he told his friends how to do everything just right. Tomorrow, I would find out if we could be a real team or not. We worked late in my room, faster than ever before. Jake's friends sat in a circle, cutting and folding cardstock bookmarks. Jake kept reading my notes and telling everyone, don't mess up the edges. If these look cheap, the store won't buy them. Do it right or don't do it. I watched him out of the corner of my eye. Was he really helping, or did he have his own plan? Part of me wanted to trust him. Part of me was still mad remembering all the times he said I couldn't do it. Mia made a stack of finished bookmarks. This is actually fun, she said. Jake looked at her. Yeah, but it's not a game. This is serious, he said. I rolled my eyes. You know, Jake, you're acting like these are your bookmarks, I said. He stopped and put down his scissors. No, he said. I'm just making sure you're not wasting your chance. I could feel my cheeks get hot. My chance, I said. You didn't even want me to do this at first. You laughed at me. You told everyone art was just for fun. He looked down. Yeah, I know I was just... He trailed off and shrugged. Mia glanced at Jake, then at me. Guys, are you okay? I took a deep breath. I don't know, I just don't want you to take over, Jake. This was my idea. I built this when everyone said I couldn't. Jake finally looked me in the eye. His face looked different now, soft, not hard or teasing. I know, Lila, he said. And I was wrong. You did everything while I just talked and joked. I guess I got a little jealous. I stared at him, shocked. Jealous of me. He shrugged again. I always thought I'd be the business kid in this family. Dad lets me help at the store and talks to me about work. Everyone just assumes you do art and I do business. But then, I saw how many people wanted your bookmarks. You're creative and smart, Lila. You made something real. I didn't know how to handle that. I tried not to cry. For the first time, Jake sounded honest. I thought you hated all of this, I whispered. He shook his head. No, not really. Mostly I was scared you'd be better than me, or maybe you always were and I just realized. I was quiet. My stomach did a backflip. I never thought Jake could feel scared. Jake poked at the pile of bookmarks. I'm sorry I said girls don't belong in business. That was stupid, he said. Mia smiled at him. It takes guts to admit that, she said. I felt something heavy fall off my chest. Thank you, I whispered, for saying that and for helping. I think we're better as a team. Jake snorted. I still think I'm the boss at some stuff. Only if you listen to me about design, I said. Then I grinned. He grinned back. He held out his fist for a bump. I bumped it. It was the first bump that felt real. After his friends left, Jake sat next to me on the floor. You know, if we worked together, we could do more than just bookmarks, he said. I stared at him. Like what? He looked around the room. Dad knows a guy who prints notebooks. Mom's always coming up with cool ways for people to learn. We could make a family business. Everyone could bring something special. I got goosebumps. Really, you'd want to do that with me? He nodded. Yeah, I actually need your help, Lila. You're better at design and knowing what people like. I'm good at figuring out how to make things work faster. And Mom and Dad are smart too. I bit my lip, my heart racing. The truth was, I'd always dreamed about doing something together as a family. But I was still scared. What if Mom and Dad thought it was a silly idea? What if I messed it up? Jake nudged my arm. You thinking about it? I nodded. But what if Mom and Dad say no? Or what if I ruin everything? Jake shook his head. You won't ruin it. You're the reason this all started. Just tell them your idea. I took a deep breath. Okay, maybe I will. Jake grinned and bumped my shoulder. Let's do it. Tomorrow we show them. Suddenly, I could picture us all working together. Me, Jake, Dad, and Mom. But my nerves still buzzed under my skin. Could I be brave one more time? I looked at Jake. Will you really back me up if they don't like it? He nodded. Yeah, I promise, he said. I fell asleep that night hugging my sketchbook, both scared and excited. I wondered if I'd wake up tomorrow with the courage to tell my family everything. What if this was just the beginning? My whole body shook as I stood by the kitchen table. Mom was washing dishes. Dad was reading the paper. Jake kept kicking my foot under the table like he was telling me, Go, now! My throat felt tight. I had planned what to say all night, but now it all seemed to twist up inside me. I took a slow breath. Can I talk to everyone for a minute, please? Dad lowered his newspaper and raised his eyebrows. Sure, kiddo, what's up? He said. Mom dried her hands on a towel. Jake nodded at me. He was trying to act cool, but I saw him biting his lip. My hands were ice cold. Still, I said, I have an idea for a family business. My voice sounded small. Not just bookmarks, more. Dad blinked in surprise. Go on, he said. I glanced at Jake. He gave me a little thumbs up. I pushed forward. I want to call it Family Creations. It would be all of us working together. My bookmarks. Dad, you could make custom notebooks with your printing shop. Mom, you have all those fun teaching ideas, like reading games and learning kits. Jake's good at organizing stuff. Everyone was quiet. Even the clock seemed to stop ticking. For a moment, I was terrified I'd made a huge mistake. Mom smiled first. You want us to work as a team? I love teams, she said. I always wanted to bring my teaching ideas to more kids. That's amazing, Lila. Jake spoke next. We'd be like a real company, he said. I could set up school visits and help with money stuff. Dad ran a hand through his hair. His voice was deep and slow. You want me to print notebooks for you, he said. Not just for me, I said quickly. For all of us. We'd have a booth at the next county fair. We could sell bookmarks, notebooks, and learning kits for teachers and parents. We could have an online shop too, maybe not right away. My words tumbled out, faster and faster. Dad smiled. I never thought of us doing something together like that. It sounds big. and kind of scary, he said. I nodded. My eyes felt hot. It is scary, but I think we can do it together. Mom hugged me hard. I'm all in, she said. Let's plan it tonight. Dad grinned. If everyone's on board, I'll call Mr. Schmidt at the print shop and see if we can get a deal for our first notebooks, he said. Jake slid into the seat next to me. This is going to be awesome, he said. All at once, my fear melted away. For a minute, we were all laughing and talking about names and booth colors and product ideas. My brain raced with excitement. That night, the four of us sat around the table and made lists. Mom had lesson plans. Dad drew notebook covers. Jake figured out prices. We worked for hours. My cheeks hurt from smiling so much, but I loved every second of it. 6 months later, we set up our booth at the county fair. We had a banner that read Family Creations. People came from 3 counties away to buy our products. My bookmarks, Dad's notebooks, Mom's teaching games. Jake stood out front in his suit and tie, talking to everyone like he'd always been this grown-up. The best day was when the newspaper reporter came. She took our picture, and we all squeezed together, even Jake, who never wanted to hug anyone. The headline said, "Siblings break stereotypes. Family business thrives across 3 states." I held that newspaper in my hands, barely believing it was real. But something even better happened that week. Jake was talking with his friends after the fair. They asked how the business started. I listened from the steps, holding my breath. Jake grinned and said, "It was all my sister's idea, actually. She's the business genius in our family." My heart leapt. I never expected him to say those words, not ever. I sat in my room, looking at all our family's creations, and remembered how it all started. Just me, just a stubborn dream. But I still wondered, now that we had come so far, what would our next big idea be? Everyone thinks it feels good to win, but sometimes it actually feels a little scary. I watched the line at our family creations booth at the county fair. My hands shook just like the very first time I tried to sell a bookmark. Students, parents, even strangers from other towns were stopping by to see our table. I heard a woman whisper, "That's the family from the newspaper," and I almost wanted to hide under the table. Mom saw my face and leaned over. "Lila, are you okay?" she said. "I'm not sure," I said. "I thought I'd feel happy when this happened, but I think I'm nervous." She smiled. "You're allowed to feel both things. Isn't it amazing how far we came?" I nodded. It's just, what if something goes wrong today? What if people stop liking my bookmarks or Dad's notebooks? What if someone says we don't belong here? Jake overheard us and laughed softly. "Stop worrying, Lila. Look at the line. You did this." I shook my head. "We did it, all of us." He nudged my shoulder. "But no one would have cared if I tried to run this on my own. People want your art. They like Mom's teaching games because you tell them what's cool. You're not just part of the business. You started it." I smiled, but my face felt hot. Dad walked over, carrying a box of fresh notebooks from the truck. "We're almost out of the blue ones, Lila," he said. "Can you sign a few covers? People keep asking if you'll do a quick drawing on theirs." My hands trembled. "Okay," I said. I pulled out a marker and started doodling tiny foxes on the first 3 covers. The boy buying them grinned from ear to ear. "Thanks, you're my favorite artist," he said. I stared at my hands. Tears prickled at my eyes. I swallowed hard and just nodded. He was gone before I could even say thank you. All day, Jake handled the money, calling out, "Family Creations! Get your custom notebooks and bookmarks." Mom chatted with every customer, telling stories about how her reading games started in our own kitchen. Dad shook hands with other business owners like he'd been doing this forever. A woman in a red jacket came up. She looked familiar. She smiled at me. "Are you Lila?" "Yes," I said, my heart pounding. She handed me a business card. "I'm Mrs. Lin. I work for a national book company. I saw your story in the paper. We're looking for young artists and creators for a new project." She leaned closer and lowered her voice. "Would you like to be on our youth business panel? It would mean speaking at big events, even in other states." I almost dropped the card. "Me, you want me to speak?" She smiled. "Your whole family could come. But yes, we want to hear your story. You're inspiring kids everywhere. I looked at Mom, Dad, and Jake. My whole body buzzed with shock and fear. Jake actually cheered and punched the air. "It's because of you, Lila," he shouted, so loud people looked over. Dad squeezed my arm. "You've made us proud, honey," he said, his voice shaky. I couldn't believe it. A year ago, Jake said I would never be a business person. Dad only talked shop with him. I was just the girl who drew foxes in her sketchbook. Now people wanted to hear my ideas, not just at home, but everywhere. But I was scared, too. What if I mess up? I whispered to Mom as the crowd moved on. She hugged me and kissed my forehead. "You won't, and even if you do, that's how we get better." I wished I felt as sure as she sounded. I stared at Mrs. Lynn's business card. My hands were still shaking. "Will everyone really want to hear what I have to say?" I said quietly to Jake as we boxed up the last bookmarks. He gave me a look I'd never seen before, like he was proud and maybe a tiny bit jealous at the same time. "Trust me, Lila, they will. Just promise me you'll tell everyone I helped, too." I rolled my eyes but smiled. "Sure, Jake, you can even wear your tie." For a moment, we all just stood together, watching the sun set over the fair. Suddenly my phone buzzed with an email alert. I looked down and read the first line. My eyes got wide. I gasped. Jake snatched the phone. "What did they say?" he asked. I tried to calm my pounding heart, but I couldn't. It was an invitation to visit the state capitol, to meet the governor, and maybe even be on TV. I held my family tight, my voice shaking. "I think our story isn't done yet." The world was getting bigger, and I didn't know if I was brave enough for all of it, but I was ready to try.